All right, I'd like to start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rachakudash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is Vocab Haman Malone Justifies G3n0cid3 on the side by prosecuting a war. Now, this is based off of a post, or not a post, a still that was sent to me by the elder Karatazar from the Vegas camp. I guess it was a conversation that Vocab Haman Malone was having on one of his videos, and the point that the person was making, right? Somebody named Jacob Israel 2613. It says 85% of Palestinians are Muslim. What about the G3n0cid3 on the side they are facing right now? What about the plus 40 Christians that were killed in Gaza, or deleted in Gaza by Israelis? So this is what Vocab put on it, right? So Vocab said prosecuting a war is not a G3n0cid3 on the side. So pretty much he's justifying what Amalek over there in the land is doing to them Palestinians by saying that they're prosecuting a war. So you may ask, what is prosecuting a war? Well, when you go online to the chat, it says, what does it mean to prosecute a war? To prosecute a war means to conduct, manage, or carry out military operations during a war, often with a focus on planning, strategy, and the overall execution of the conflict. The term prosecute here doesn't refer to legal proceedings as in a courtroom, but rather comes from its broader meaning to pursue something until completion. So basically he's saying that, they're prosecuting this war. In other words, when you prosecute a war, someone has to do something to you, and then you turn around and you're defending yourself until the mission is complete, until you stamp out your enemy that, that came up against you. So now what is the justification for them to do that? They're using this Hamas thing, whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, what does that have to do with those, the regular civilian population? And why is it that they're so-called attacking these Hamas leaders and, and rebels, but then they're, slowly but surely destroying people's homes and moving them out so that they can take over their land? So basically Vocab is justifying G3n0cid3 on the side, by, this prosecuting war under the pretext of prosecuting a war. And this is what the devil does. They use, deceptive wording, deceptive tactics, in order to, get what they want, because they're going to get it. I forget who that was. I'm not sure if that was John D. Rockefeller. No, I don't believe it. He said, we're going to have a new world order, whether by, I forget exactly how he said it, whether by, I'm just merely paraphrasing, whether by compliance or not, or something along those lines. So they're going to have it. They're going to put it they're going to put it together. They're going to go forward with their agenda until the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai puts a stop to them. So it says, in context, a government or military might prosecute a war by deploying troops, coordinating battles, allocating resources, and making strategic decisions. Leaders like generals or heads of state are said to be prosecuting the war when they are actively directing its course. So pretty much these mini caps, I had to come up with my own. I didn't want to keep using Elder Yashawamba's tiny tops. So these mini caps, they're prosecuting a war against these people under the pretext of them protecting themselves, right? Example usage: the president vowed to prosecute the war with increased intensity after the enemy's attack. So let's see, what would cause a country to prosecute a war. See what comes up. Oops. Country, come on, man. Let's see what comes up. A country might prosecute a war, meaning actively engage in the conduct military operations for a variety of reasons. These causes can be defensive. See, this is what they're trying to say: offensive, strategic, or ideological, and often involve a complex mix of political, economic, and social factors. And pretty much, they just want the land that doesn't belong to them. And funny thing is, it don't belong to the Palestinians either, because they're Ishmaelites, But the point is that when going back to 1967, was it? No, 48. When the agreement was made, the Palestinians agreed, that they could, come to the land, because of that they would not infringe upon the lands of the Palestinians. But that was all. This is what Esau does. Esau tells you something. He makes a pact with you. He promises you all these promises. Then once he gets where he wants to get, he pretty much, does the total opposite. Remember, it's all about getting in place, putting laws in place. Afterwards, they'll make the necessary provisions to attain the ultimate goal that will benefit them the most. Here are some of the main reasons a country might prosecute a war. Self-defense, and this is what they're claiming, self-defense. So Vocab Haman Malone is justifying Gen to the O on the side by a prosecuting war that these, mini caps are pushing on the Palestinians. Because he told the guy that asked the question, prosecuting a war is not a Gen to the O on the side. So he's justifying it. But then he's going to turn around and ask us why we ain't talking about these different Christians that are getting deleted, so on and so forth. Because at the end of the day, you Christians ain't right. You Christians are demons, and we've been showing you in the scriptures, how you're going off, and you ain't listening. So good riddance. It says trigger an attack or imminent threat from another nation or group. See, and in this case, it would be the group, so-called Hamas, right? It says example: the U.S. prosecuting war in Afghanistan after the 9/11 attacks, right? But that was for what? For the pretext of getting that lithium and opium. But then they'll say, "Oh, it was terrorists." Terror to the O, T to the arrow on the ist. Territorial disputes, and this is another one, trigger, desire to reclaim, expand, or defend land. And they're trying to expand because they can't reclaim something that was never theirs. The only time that Esau, had, our land, in possession was when the Babylonians came in and they took, parts of the land. And then when you had that devil Herod, that was put as king of Judah, of the Jews, that was another time. But they don't have a claim or the right to reclaim something that's not theirs. Now, what they should be reclaiming is the land of Edom, that region down there that the Nabateans are holding, because that is their land. They should be reclaiming that. Petra and all those regions down there, Mount Seir and all that. That's what they should be reclaiming, not Jerusalem, not Israel, because that doesn't belong to you, right? It says, example, Russia prosecuting war in Ukraine over territorial claims and influence. Number 3, political or ideological goals, trigger, promoting or defending a political system, religion, so they fit all 3 so far, or ideology. Example, the Cold War led to the proxy wars like Vietnam, where the U.S. prosecuted wars to contain communism, so-called. So they're waging war on these people there, but then here it is, they're saying that because they're moose to the lambs, right? But then again, they're also prosecuting Christians. But why ain't Vocab talking about that? How those mini caps, spit on and mistreat, Christians that are there, that are so-called there to push that plantation Christianity in those regions. Why he ain't talking about that? Ain't you supposed to be a Christian? Oh, he ain't gonna talk about that. Let's not talk about that. So number 4, economic interest trigger access to resources, trade routes, or economic dominance, right? And they fit this one because they're trying to take that plate. What is that called? Gaza Strip, and they got that area because they want to run a pipeline all the way through there. But what's wrong? These people are in the way, so they got to get them out of there. So this is a pretext, set up, this, the high to the mosque, as the enemies to justify them, tearing that place up so that they could come in and take the land pretty much so they can get their goals. These devils are devious. You keep believing that they're cool, that they're good people. You're just seeing the outer teeth. You ain't seeing them fangs in the back. Example, imperial powers prosecuting wars in Africa and Asia during colonization. Alliances and treaties trigger obligation to defend or support an ally under a formal agreement. Okay, that goes into something else. National prestige or unity trigger boosting national pride or unifying a divided population. Which they're all in the bag. Number 7, revenge or retribution. This is what they're saying. This is all humiliation. So they're trying to say, you're going to let the hostages go, or we're going to keep tearing your ass up. Example, conflicts that follow long-standing historical grievances like in the Balkans. Number 8, preemptive action trigger belief that an enemy will strike soon, so attacking first is seen as necessary, like they did. They got their ass handed to them, and Iran was just giving them the old, that old old store that they, so they ain't really get them with the good shit, even though they hit them with a few of them, but they really ain't get busy with the good shit. Israel's preemptive strike in the 6-Day War, 1967, right? That was against Gamal Abdel Nasser, because Gamal Abdel Nasser, which is the ambassador in Obadiah, he was raising up those different, moose to the lambs, countries against these devils, because he knew that they're not the people. He said, there was a quote back in 1956. He can't respect, those people there, as Jews, because the Jews left black, and how can they come back white along those lines? You brothers know the deal. So summary, a country prosecutes a war not just because it can. In this case, I should have. Definition, male violence. No, you know what? Let me put violent person. Here we go. That's better. Give it a broader. A violent person uses physical force or threats with the intent to hurt, damage, or delete another person or themselves, or to destroy property. That's why the Lord said, Yahushua said, except those days be short, and there shall no flesh be left to be saved. Why? Because these devils, if you let them go on the way they're going without any intervention, they're going to destroy everybody, yes, but they're going to eventually destroy themselves because of that greed. It's bad when you have such greed that you will be willing to destroy your own self just to get, every last little crumb. That's a person that is insatiable or unsatiable. Let's go real quick to Habakkuk. This is why the world is waking up to you. Ain't nobody buying that, anti-Sem stuff anymore. People are getting hip to the game. So since they're getting hip to the game, what's the next step? censorship, passing laws to make, speaking against the mini caps, a crime. Because I believe out there in Sweden, you can't really speak about, them in a certain way, or you can get locked up or be fined. They're devious. This is why they want control of everything. This is why they have infiltrated all these different facets of government, pretty much all over the world. You got small hats as presidents of Mexico. You got, small hats down in South America. So when you see the representatives at the UN, a lot of those are small hat, either they're small hats or they're jakes that are following the agenda of the tiny caps. So Habakkuk 2:5, yea, also because, matter of fact, it started, for behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him. So he's not righteous. I'm not sure if this word upright here is Yasha 1. Yashar, yep. So it's is a shortened form of Yasha 1. Upright, darling, Yasha 1. Because Israel is the first, love of the Lord. Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith, right? Because in these times, the most precious commodity that Israel can have, especially the elect really, is faith. That's the most precious commodity. Not, dry goods, not water, not gold or silver, a place to hide or whatever the case may be. It's going to be faith. That's it. This is going to be the main commodity. And this is the reason why you're going to see a lot of these women coming to the men of the Lord, because their faith, and they're going to see that out of all these people out here, they're the ones that's not really being touched by or affected by these things. And you got to understand what manner of person, would you have to be to see destruction, famine, and still be able to laugh at it. Because we're going to understand perfectly, what's going on. That's why it says that knowledge and wisdom shall be the stability of thy times and strength of salvation. The fear of the Lord is his treasure. And once the Lord's treasure chest open up to you, oh my God. On the right hand of the Most High are pleasures evermore. Verse 5, yea, also because he transgresseth by wine. What is his wine? His philosophies, his democracy. And they're pushing hard their economic status on the world. And this is why Pete Hegseth talk about, he's pretty much, they're going to bring peace by waging war. Because, the motto in 1984 is peace is war is peace. Because they see their grip slipping. And, if the devil and the pride of the devil, they can't have that. So what do they have to do? They have to show force to get everybody back in line. Because when Jake was in slavery under Esau, right, that hardcore bondage under Esau, what did Esau do? If you had an uppity Jake, he would make an example of him, buck break or put him on, on display, bust his ass, not the buck breaking part, but I'm talking about the, whipping him, to within an inch of his life, selling his loved ones, to different plantations, wives, children and all that, cousins, uncles, or whatever the case may be, to what? To humiliate and to break his spirit. In cases they would castrate him, Jake, just to break their will. So that's what the devil does. So it says he is a proud man. And you see that. Do you see that? Did you see and this devil was proud. Talking about Pete Hegseth giving that speech. You see, he was up there proud as hell, talking all kinds of shit. And that's the epitome of Esau. It says, who enlargeth his desire as hell. What is hell? Hell is the grave. When have you ever known the grave to be full? Never. Let's see. I think that's Proverbs 27. Proverbs 27. And 20. Hell, which is the grave, and destruction are never full. So the eyes of man are never satisfied. This is Esau. So hell and destruction are never full. Because people, the grave is always waiting. Why? Because that's the sentence over all flesh until Yahweh Shai comes back with the change. All right. So going back to Habakkuk chapter 2, it says, he is a proud man, neither Habakkuk 2 and 5. He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlarges his desire as hell, and is as death. Because this is what they bring. They bring nothing but death, violence, destruction, and cannot be satisfied. That means that they're unsatiable. The word is either unsatiable or insatiable. I believe it's unsatiable. Like you had a song by Jasper Isley, I believe it was. Insatiable woman. Let me see. Insatiable. Insatiable woman is a woman that never satisfied. See, insatiable, of an appetite or desire impossible to satisfy. See, not satiated. Like when you eat certain types of food, like avocados and beans and different types of legumes, nuts, walnuts, pecans and all that. They're satiating because they're filling. That's why you don't need that much of them, to eat. And they have a lot of minerals and proteins and different benefits to the body. Because the thing about the body is, once the body gets what it needs to function, the brain sends signals to the stomach, say, okay, that's enough. We don't need no more. That's why when you eat healthier, you don't eat as much as when you eat the harbinger of death. That's right. Pull it out, brother. Pull out the 29th scroll, the 6th verse. When you eat healthy, the body says, okay, that's enough. We don't need anything else. But when you eat that garbage, the reason why you eat so much is because the body is looking for the nutrients, the minerals, the amino acids, the vitamins that it needs, to fix, repair, build, construct the body. But when it gets that garbage, the garbage tastes good. So the body doesn't know what to do with it because it doesn't recognize it. So what does it do? Okay, let's store this as fat for energy later. And that's why you see these obese people. That's their body, putting stuff until there's no more room. Until eventually the body says, you know what? I can't keep up with this bullshit. When you start acting right and giving me the right stuff, then I'll start functioning. But other than that, you on your own. So this devil is insatiable. It says, of a person having an insatiable appetite or desire for something, especially sex. And, that's one aspect. But with this devil, it's about money. It's about, land, resources, slaves. See, these devils, even though they're the devil, they rule with a ruling mentality. They don't rule with a peasant mentality, even though they are peasants. They done got uppity. It says, and cannot be satisfied. See, they're not satiated. They're insatiable. But gathereth unto him all nations. This is your new world order. And heapeth unto him all people. This is your new world order. And this is what we see happening right now worldwide. Shall not all these, meaning all of these different nations that you've taken their lands, their resources, you've put in serious debt, with your Federal Reserve note under the promises of convertibility to silver back in 1944, and you broke that promise when President Nixon, revoked, the convertibility of those bills into silver. We were just at the Federal Reserve Bank yesterday, and we were going through some of the history. I was breaking down some of the history to the brothers. They go into, they speak about certain things, but they don't break nothing down. They're just paint a broad stroke, and then they show you little videos, but like little clippings of just stuff they want you to hear. You can't bring a phone in there, so you can't record, you can't take pictures, you know. And then there's one section that I don't remember seeing the last time I was here, because I believe it's new, and it's pretty much is the future of money. And in there, right, is this woman, is automated, woman that comes up on the screen. Oh, okay, welcome, to blah 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 blah. Let me, and the year was 2200. And he said, let me pull up your records. I see there's no retina scan. No, okay, well, let me do it this way. And she goes to scan you. Oh, I see there's no, I forget what she said, micro C-hip or something like that. And she didn't say micro C-hip, but something along those lines, that there were pretty much no biometric markers in the person. But then they make it seem like you can still pay the old way. Oh, I get it. You're from the past, And then, well, how would you like to pay? Then you have options, cash, credit card, debit card, checks. And the last one is ACV or ACH or something like that. Like, I guess direct deposit. And they're saying you can still, pay that way. No, this is the reason why they're bringing in this digital system, is because they plan on getting rid of all the old way. The new world, when the new world order is about economic change, getting rid of the old system to bring the new system in place. And we see it playing out. This is why these camps like the IUIC and the ISUPK are scrambling now, saying, well, we're not discounting that the micro C-hip isn't a part of it, but that's not it, They might throw a micro C-hip in there, but that's not it. Because they're slowly but surely spinning. And like I said, the Spirit had me say a couple of years ago, I don't know what video it was, and if you don't believe me, then the Spirit knows. It's in the ether, that I said, I'm interested to see how these different camps are going to spin their web to to pretty much say that the micro C-hip is the MOTB. And we see it playing out. Let's see the brother put diabolical digital totalitarianism, directive control through coercion and repression. Yeah, because what they're going to do is they're going to corner people into accepting this, because it's like, all right, you had phones back then, right? You had them big ass bricks. Then eventually they started making smaller ones and, flip phones and all of that. And what happened? When the 2Gs and the 3Gs and the 4Gs and the 5Gs came in, they started to, make those other ones obsolete to where they wouldn't work. So you were forced, if you wanted to have a cell phone or a smartphone, you were forced to buy, a new one, because the old technology wouldn't work, because it was obsolete. You are obsolete. 2 Corinthians 2:11. Yep. Least Satan should get advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. That's right. Okay, the elder, I believe you said that last time, right? The elder Hawad said, I remember that video of the apostle. I believe he said it, that elder said it in the last time I spoke about it, So it says, shall not all these take up a parable against him and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his? How long? Right, because they're increasing stuff that's not theirs. And when you increase stuff that's not yours, you have to do it by bloodshed, by violence, or by deceit, by fraud. And when you do it by fraud, you do it by fraud through the economic system. That's why it says, unto him that ladeth himself with thick clay. So for those of you that may not know, Elder Pastor was the first one to bring this out. When you go to that term thick clay, it's not talking about actual clay. Thick clay is the word ibatyat, right? Ibatyat means weight of pledges, heavy debts. See, because a pledge, right? The scriptures speak about pledging, right? A pledge is pretty much you giving your word that you're going to pay, for something, for a particular debt. you could say collateral. Collateral would be a form of pledge. So you may put your home up or your car up to get a loan. And when you default on that loan, right, what happens? They come and get your home, they come and get your vehicle, or they come and get whatever assets you put as that pledge, or as that I just said use the word, it starts with a C. Very well. If it comes back, it comes back. Lord will it come back. I just used the word collateral. All right, so right here, you see right here, it says pledging of goods. See, hence load of debt with which one has contracted. So how do you collateral? Yep. How do you contract it? By these different adhesion contracts that you have to sign, because when you go get a loan, you have to put your name, your signature, and that signature gives them the force that they need to collect on these different debts. This is why you have people that owe certain debts and they have liens on their homes. They have liens on their vehicles and stuff like that and shit like that. Salaki inside joke. So let's go back. So that's how they got the people, through the thick clay or the heavy debt, right? It says, shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them. So let's look up a couple of these words. Booty means, the goods that you get when you go to war, the spoils of war, they're spoils. Okay. Let's look up this word bite thee. Let's see what it says. Bite thee, the word there's nashak. To bite, to pay, give interest, lend for interest or usury, to give interest, to give interest. All right, so, this is why Esau's talking about waging war, because the nations are tired of this bitch, and they're pretty much seeking different, methods of conducting business. They still do business with America, but they're looking to sidestep, a lot of stuff so that they can pay with their own money among themselves. This is why Gaddafi was taken out. This is why Saddam Hussein was taken out, because they were setting up a system to where they were going to cut the dollar out. And Esau can't have that. This is why Pete Hegseth is talking about, waging war to bring peace. What is he really saying behind those words? He's saying that we're going to wage war to get everybody back in line, because you of nations and got uppity, and we're going to put you back in line. So collateral. Oh damn, it passed. All right, no worries. Oh, it's like I want to get the word booties also. And it's not talking about that booty. So get your mind out the gutter. Although, that's a part of the spoils of war. Mashasah. Booty, spoil, plunder. So it's a spoil, plunder. All right, so let's see what else we got. And then I got a couple of precepts that I wrote down last night, just thoughts that came to mind. Lord's will, I could still get to the lesson on the strangers and Gentiles in the New Testament, because we did one yesterday in the Old Testament, just a few pointers. Lord's will, we could keep that going also. So Habakkuk 2:4, because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee. That's why it says, when you shall cease to spoil. So when would be the final, when would be Esau's ending of him ceasing to spoil? When he gets his new world order off the ground. And they're going to do it for like a brief moment. They're going to feel like they got the victory, and that's when Yahushua is going to come back and take your monkey ass out because of men's blood, see, and for the violence of the land, of the city, and of all that dwell therein. Let's look up this word violence. That's why it says that America, Babylon the Great, is going to go out by violence. Why? Because it was established upon violence. Do you realize the amount of bloodshed that these devils have accumulated from the time of the Renaissance until the present, and especially since America has been in power. The word is Hamas. Hamas. Violence, wrong, cruelty, injustice. This is what they call in that group out there to justify them prosecuting a war against, the Palestinians. And this is what Vocab is justifying, because he said, prosecuting a war is not gen to the O on the side. So what does that mean? That means he's with that. He justifies that. Why? Because those are his peoples. Remember, his father's from Germany. You had a lot of, mini caps that came from that region of Germany. They call them Ashkenazi, So you have a lot, and that doesn't mean that they go back to Japhet. They just happen to take over that region. Just like the Arabs today. The Arabs are about as Mizraim or Egyptian as Esau is, so-called European or Greek. Those people that are ruling and controlling those different lands, where Ham used to be, Egypt and, the coastal regions going up, Tyre, Sidon and all that. Those are Ishmaelites. And some of them are Edomites, of the Ottoman Empire. They're not the original people of that land. So just because they call themselves Egyptians don't mean that they are the original Mizraimites, which goes back to Mizraim, the son of one of the sons of Ham, which are the so-called Egyptians. That's not them. But today people think that. Why? Because they control that land. Same thing with Esau. They're in the land of Israel, the mini caps. Those are not the people of the land. Just because they claim to be the people of the land, that doesn't make them that. All right, so let's go back. So that you see the word for violence. All right, so verse 9. Woe to him that coveteth an evil covetousness to his house, that he may set his nest on high. And this is what they're doing. Because remember, from 2020 to the present, these devils have more than likely accumulated over quadruple their wealth. And this is what they're doing. They're getting prepared for this great collapse, so that they can bring in this new system. And then they're going to even collapse some of their own corporations in order, because they're financially stable to where it's not going to affect them. Yeah, it's going to be a loss. But remember, when you're investing capital into something, you have to expect losses. Nobody ever goes into business expecting to not lose any money. You're going to lose some money, but then later on you gain it back. And they say the average business out there, if they can make it past 2 years, then they might be in good case, because it takes about 2 years to really get a business off the ground. In most cases, it says that he may be delivered from the power of evil, and this is what they're trying to do, from that evil day, from the hardships of poverty. It says, thou hast consulted shame to thy house by cutting off many people, and hast sinned against thy soul. And it goes on and on and on. But let's go from there. Let's go to a couple of these precepts I have. Let's go to this book of Psalms, chapter 9. And we're going to start at not 9. Psalms verse 7. Had a touch of dyslexia there. Psalm 7 and verse 9. And we're going to read a couple of verses down. Actually, we're going to read to the end. Psalm 7 and 9. Oh, let the wickedness of the wicked come to an end. And this is what we're praying for. Because remember, the inhabitants of the earth have not fallen. The inhabitants of the world have not fallen yet. So this is what we're waiting for. But we're seeing it crumble and collapse, but they're still pushing on forward like as if they got it in the bag. Allegedly, world debt is 324 trillion. USA owes 194 trillion of that debt. Habakkuk 2:6. Yep. But establish the just, for the righteous power trieth the hearts and reigns. My defense is of the Most High, which saveth the upright in heart. The Most High judges the righteous, and the Most High is angry with the wicked every day. So who's the wicked? That's Esau. Esau is the only nation that is identified as a whole as being the wicked. Now you have wicked among the Israelites. You have Israelites that are more wicked than Esau, but nevertheless, and you have nations out there that are wicked, but not as a whole. Esau is the only nation described in the scriptures as being a wicked people, the whole nation, the people against whom the Lord has indignation forever. They were created for that purpose. They were tailor-made for destruction. It says, if he turn not, he will whet his sword. The word here, wet, is not water wet. It's to sharpen. And how is the Lord going to whet his sword? By bringing them missiles and also the lasers from the chariots. He have bent his bow and made it ready. Yeah, so the Lord is ready to take this devil out. But remember, he says that he had to wait. He had to suffer these devils because his word is on the line. He says he hath also prepared for him the instruments of death. Yeah, you love bringing bloodshed and death on people. Guess what? That's what's coming on you. He ordaineth his arrows against the persecutors. And this is why we're waiting on Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. There's nothing we could do. We can't resist these devils. There's nothing that we could do to get out of this situation except for pray and hope and wait till Yahweh Bashem Yahushai raises up to these devils. Other than that, we cooked. Fried, died, and laid to the side. Says, behold, he travaileth with iniquity. Right. So he can't sleep until he causes mischief, and hath conceived mischief and brought forth falsehood. And the greatest weapons that Esau has, his greatest blessings, is the sword and deception. It says he made a pit, which is a trap, and digged it. So he got the trap set all over the world. Forget about it. It's all over the world. I'm known all over the world. Forget about it. And it's fallen into the ditch which he made, because this new world order that he set up and established is going to be what brings his agenda to the grave. When he's about to fill his belly, the Most High shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him, and is fallen into the ditch which he made. His mischief shall return upon his own head, and his what? Violent dealing shall come down upon his own pate. It's going to come down upon his own head. It says, I will praise Yahweh Bashem Yahushai according to his righteousness, and will sing praise to the name of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai Most High. How can we do that if we don't know the name? All right, so let's go from there. Let's go to Psalms chapter 5. This is why the Lord said when these devils come in like a flood, the Lord's going to raise up a standard against them. Why? Because, these devils don't play fair. All right, Psalms 5 and verses 4 to 6. For thou art a power that hath pleasure. For thou art not a power that hath pleasure in wickedness. That's right. Neither shall evil dwell with thee. The foolish shall not stand in thy sight. Thou hatest all workers of iniquity. So just because you have a pretense and have certain people fooled into believing that you're righteous and noble, and you're not, the Lord ain't fooled. He sees right through your shit. He created you, fool. He created the eyes and the ears. You don't think you can see and hear? Thou shalt destroy them that speak leasing or lying. The Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai will abhor or avoid the bloody and deceitful man. And you devils are bloody and deceitful men. You are insatiable. As far as, money is concerned, finances are concerned, bloodshed is concerned. You can never have enough of anything. It says, now let's jump down to the 9th verse. It says, for there is no faithfulness in their mouth, Esau's mouth. Their inward part is very wickedness. The heart is deep. The only thing that they know is wickedness. They know nothing else but wickedness. The way of peace they know not. Where's that at? Let me just leave that just in case. Isaiah 59:8, the way of peace. Matter of fact, let me go. Now this is dealing with Jake, but we know things that applied to Jake now apply to Esau. Isaiah 59:7, their feet run to evil, and they make haste to shed innocent blood. Their thoughts are thoughts of iniquity, wasting and destruction is in their paths. Right. That's what's in their path, wasting and destruction. It says, the way of peace they know not, and there is no judgment in their goings. They have made them crooked paths. Whosoever goeth therein shall not know peace. That's why it says, if they that consent unto them shall be had in derision. All right. The way of peace they know that. Oh, that's what I meant to do. NLT. They don't know where to find peace or what it means to be just and good. They have mapped out crooked roads, and no one who follows them knows a moment of peace. No, you ain't going to get peace from these devils. So it says, Psalms 5:9, for there is no faithfulness in their mouth. Their inward part is very wickedness. Their throat is an open sepulcher. They flatter with their tongue. So these devils are treacherous. Never trust the God. There you go. The brother's right on time. Ecclesiastes 12:10. Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. That's so the brother, tapped in the spirit. He's tapped in. All right, let's go from there to Proverbs chapter 4. Proverbs chapter 4 and verse 14. The mini camps are waging war on the American citizens. Laugh out loud. yeah, brother. Mini caps, my brother. Mini caps. Ecclesiastes 12:13. Who will pity a charmer that is bitten with a serpent, or any such as come nigh wild beasts? Right. Like, what was that dude's name? Orwin, or whatever the hell his name was. That he was in nature fucking with the animals, and he went deep sea diving, and a stingray shot him with the stingray through his heart. Hey, that's what you get for fucking with wild animals. You fuck with wild animals, you expect to get mauled. Don't be fucking with them wildebeests, man. Them wildebeests will trample your ass. Irving, yep, the water, brother. Crocodile Hunter, yep. Stephen Irving, yep. You don't hear nothing about him no more. Proverbs 4:14, enter not into the path of the wicked, and go not in the way of evil men. Avoid it, pass not by it, turn from it, and pass away. Why? Because the end of that road is what? D to the E to the A to the T to the H. For they sleep not, except they have done mischief, and their sleep is taken away unless they cause some to fall. For they eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence. So here you go again, that wine. The wine of violence. And that's what they're pushing out there. So let's go from there to Psalms 55. Got a couple more precepts. Then I got to get to the regimen. Psalms 55 and 20. Excuse me. Steve Irwin, the Australian wildlife expert and television personality known as the Crocodile Hunter, he was fatally wounded by a short-tailed stingray. Who will pity a charmer that is bitten by a snake? Psalm 55:20. He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant. So these, by now you should know we know your track record, okay? Inside joke. By now, these nations should know that you can't trust them goddamn devils over there, man. The devils are treacherous, man. They turn around and sting you like a goddamn scorpion. You can't trust them devils, man. It says, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. So he gonna speak soft to you, because that's how the devil comes. But once he gets you in the position that he wants you in, then it's over. It's code X. Code X on your ass. Cast thy burden upon Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, and he shall sustain thee. He shall never suffer the righteous to be moved. Right. That's why it says that, the remnant will not stay upon him that smote them, which is Esau, but they shall stay upon the Holy One of Israel, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, in truth. Because this truth, believe it or not, is the only anchor, the weight, that's going to keep you in place when all hell breaks loose. It should be the most coveted commodity out there. The most valuable. Because when all hell breaks loose, these people are going to come, unhinged. They're already coming unhinged, and ain't really nothing really happening yet. So what you think is going to happen when the shit really hits the fan? It says, but thou, O Most High, shall bring them down into the pit of destruction. Bloody and deceitful men shall not live out half their days, but I will trust in thee, O Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. So let's go from there to Ezekiel. As a High Priest Jacob and High Priest Ariah used to say, or High Priest Jacob used to say, and we don't know if High Priest Ariah is still, alive, or if he's back in the spirit world. This is Ezekiel 7:21. This is when this goes back to the time of the Babylonian Empire, but it also applies today. I'm going to show you how. Ezekiel 7:20. As for the beauty of his ornament, just talking about the temple and all that, he set it in majesty, but they made the images of their abominations. Right. So the Most High set everything beautifully. Set it in his majesty. Why? Because remember when he showed Moses, the layout of the temple, he said, make sure that you make it according to the vision that you saw. Don't leave any details out. Because why? Yahweh said, let thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Because that temple, that was a foreshadowing on the earth of what's in the heavens and what's going to be established in the kingdom of heaven. The sacrificial part of it, of the animals for sins, that was just a way to get us, redemption or forgiveness until a better way would come, which is Yahushua, the ultimate sacrifice. There's no more perfect sacrifice than Yahushua. All right. It says, but they made their images of their abominations and for their detestable things therein, and of their detestable things therein. Therefore have I set it far from them, and I will give it into the hands of the strangers for a prey, and to the wicked Esau of the earth for a spoil, and they shall pollute it. So these devils over there, they're polluting it. Here it is, you're supposed to be the people of the Lord, right? You mini caps, but you're over there promoting, mohood. If that's even that don't even sound right. Moisms. Just thinking about some bullshit that went down yesterday. I mean, didn't nothing go down, but just some, when we left, the goddamn, the Federal Reserve, walking down the street, and this flaming mole was, he said something to us. Where y'all from? I just kept going. I just ignored that motherfucker. Man, you know, like go somewhere, motherfucker. I know he felt that shit because he ain't say shit after that. My face, okay. Oh yeah, my face will I turn also from them. This dealing with the Most High turning from us, and they shall pollute my secret place. For the robbers shall enter into it and defile it. That's why you have the robbers there now. That's talking about these mini caps. Make a chain, for the land is full of bloody crimes, and you see these bloody crimes happening, and the city is full of violence. And they're going ham on these, on these Palestinians. NLT, prepare chains for my people, for the land is bloodied by terrible crimes. Jerusalem is filled with violence. Prepare chains, for the land is full of bloodshed, and the city is full of violence. So they got that place soaked with blood, and they don't give a shit. Children, women, girls, old men, old women, they don't give a shit who it is. Let's go from there to Ezekiel. Oh, wait a minute. I think there's one more verse. Destruction cometh, and they shall seek peace, and there shall be none. Yeah, because the ultimate goal is destruction, complete annihilation and destruction of that land and of Babylon the Great. All right, let's go to Ezekiel 35. Like I said, I got a couple more precepts and we'll close out. And if the Spirit allows, I could, come back later and touch on that, on the strangers in the New Testament, if the Spirit allows. Ezekiel 35, 5 and 6. It says, because thou has had a perpetual hatred and has shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity. Going back to when the Babylonians came in and sacked Jerusalem. In the time that their iniquity had an end. Therefore, as I live, saith the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, I will prepare thee unto blood. So you are being prepared unto blood. Why? Because you were tailor-made for that. Let's go to Romans 9:22 for those of you that may not know. Romans 9:22. And you Christians, keep your filthy paws off of Romans 9. You should just keep your paws off of filthy paws off of the scriptures, period. But keep your filthy paws off of Romans 9. This does not help your cause. This destroys your cause. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to twist it and manipulate it and try to make something, say something that it's not. And every time you do that, the Spirit has us go into it even more in depth and go into the precepts in the Old Testament that proves that it's talking about Israelites only. Clown ass Christians, man. Romans 9:22. What if the Most High, willing to show his wrath and to make his power known, endured with much long suffering the vessels of wrath fitted to destruction? So Esau was tailor-made for this destruction. He was tailor-made for this ass whipping that the Lord going to bring on his ass. Let's look up this word fitted. Fitted. Right? The word is katartizo. To render, an example, to fit, sound, complete, to mend what has been broken or rent, to repair, to complete, to fit out, see, equip, put in order, arrange, adjust, to fit or frame for oneself, prepare. So you've been prepared, tailor-made, ethically to strengthen. That's going into something else. So let's go back here. Ezekiel 35 and 6. Therefore, as I live, saith the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Said thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. You don't like this. It's shedding blood to you is nothing. Matter of fact, let's go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 8. Ecclesiasticus 8 and 16. It says, I'll start at 15. Travel not by the way with a bold fellow, lest he become grievous unto thee. For he will do according to his own will, and thou shalt perish with him through his folly. Yeah, if you see a dude that's just bold and bugged out, and he just uncouth, and he just can't be tamed. You can't hang with it. You can't be with a guy like that, because you're going to fall into the mischief that he falls into, because eventually he's going to fall into mischief. Strive not with an angry man, and go not with him into a solitary place, for blood is as nothing in his sight, and where there is no help, he will overthrow thee. And if a brother could put this up in the GNT, in the comment section, if you could find it. If not, no worries. I got 2 more precepts. If you get it, I'll read it in the GNT. But if not, it's all good. Numbers 35, and these devils know these scriptures as far as the laws, what the laws say, and what they're concerned. Laws are concerned with. Numbers 35:33. So you shall not pollute the land wherein you are, for blood it defileth the land. And the land of Israel is polluted. The land of America is polluted. I mean, the world is polluted from the bloodshed that you've shed upon it. But the most important is this one here, America. Why? Because of the bloodshed of the saints. Remember, it said that you saw the woman, arrayed with the blood of the saints, or something like that. Revelation 17:6. For blood it defileth the land, and the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it. So that means that you are going to pay for what you did. And that's why it's important to understand reincarnation in the Bible. You are your forefathers coming back, and you will be judged. Prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise nor fill the face of the city, earth with cities. Something along those lines. And the last precept I have is Isaiah 26. And 21. It says, for behold, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai cometh out of his place to punish the inhabitants of the earth for their iniquity. Right. So it's time for the Lord to visit this place. This is why you see, like in 2nd Ezra 9, the Lord raising up earthquakes and uproars of the people. Why? Because these are clear signs that the Lord is visiting the earth, and he is about to fully visit it. This is why you see all of the prophecies that were written aforetime coming to pass, especially the prophecy of the MOTB. Sirach 8:16. You should not get into an argument with anyone who has a hot temper, or go to some place where the two of you will be alone. Violence means nothing to such a person, and he will. The water, bro. Nastiness. All right. The earth also shall disclose her blood, and shall no more cover her slain. Right? Because right now we just know an estimation as to the bloodshed that was, shed here in America. We don't know the actual full details of the blood that was shed here of the Israelites. We just have an estimation. You got to remember that. This is just an estimation. Galah, to uncover, remove. So the Lord is going to uncover, disclose. That's what disclosure means, to uncover. To uncover, to remove, depart. Let's see if there's anything else here. Right, to disclose, discover, lay bare. How are the hidden things of Esau sought out? To be uncovered. To reveal oneself. So that's what the Lord's going to do. That's why right now he has his prophets out here, peeling back the veil on Esau, who the wicked is, identifying the wicked. And it doesn't matter if you believe it or not, if you accept it or not, if you ride for the devil or not. It's not going to change the Most High's plans. What is something not believed? Shall the unbelief make the faith of the Most High without effect? The Lord forbid. Let the Most High be true and every man a liar, that thou mightest be justified in thy sayings and overcome when thou art judged. So we're not worried about if you believe it or not. Let not the incredulity of them trouble thee. Because at the end of the day, your unbelief is not going to stop this train. The Lord's train already left the station a long time ago. You ain't going to stop it with your unbelief. So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. To water to you brothers for putting up all those precepts and information. Really appreciate you brothers, man, on the comment board. You brothers bring another dynamic, to the lessons. So Barakate Hawabashim Al Shai for that. Oh, brother, put the rest here. Attack you when there is no one to help. So with that, I say Shalom.